Hi, this is our third and last video on figures of speech, and we begin this video with paradox. A paradox is a statement or group of statements that are seemingly absurd or self-contradictory, but which are actually true. The term comes from the Greek meaning incredible or contrary to opinion or expectation. Mother Teresa said, "I have found the paradox that if you love until it hurts, there can be no more hurt, only love." Jesus in Matthew 16:25 states a life-changing paradox. For whoever would save his life would lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. As does Paul in 2 Corinthians 12:10, where he declares, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." Paradox, a statement that is seemingly absurd or self-contradictory, but which is actually true. Personification. Personification is when an inanimate object or abstraction is given human qualities or abilities. The Grim Reaper personifies death, and the proverb, "Fear knocked on the door, faith answered," does the same with both fear and faith. Companies love to use this device in the promotion of their products. For example, the slogan of Oreo, milk's favourite cookie. This device is a fairly common device in Scripture. In Psalm 77:16, we read that the waters were afraid, whereas in Proverbs, wisdom is portrayed as a woman. And we've already seen in Psalm 114:4 how the mountains skip like rams and the hills like lambs. Personification. An inanimate object or something abstract is given human qualities or abilities. Rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question posed for its effect without expectation of a reply. The purpose of the rhetorical question is to encourage the listener to think about what the answer to the question must be. The answer may be obvious or immediately provided by the questioner. Both Jesus and the Apostle Paul used this device quite extensively. When affirming the provision of the Father, Jesus asks a series of rhetorical questions. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Are you not more valuable than birds? And which of you, being anxious, can add a single hour to his lifespan? In each of these, the answer is obvious. Rhetorical question. A question posed for its effect without the expectation of a reply. Simile. A simile is a direct comparison between two different things. And in a simile, the words like, as, or than are used. Even though similes and metaphors are both forms of comparison, similes directly compare two ideas and allow them to remain distinct in spite of their similarities, whereas a metaphor, as we've seen, compare two things indirectly. Note, as with all these forms of figures of speech, the comparison, when being made, it is not so that all the points of similarity are intended, as we see in this movie clip from Shrek.
Ogres are like onions. They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No. Layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
Oh, you both have layers. Oh. You know, not everybody likes onions.
So it's the similarity of ogres and onions were the layers, not the smell or anything else. In Psalm 1, 3-4, the righteous are, we read, like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and all that he does, he prospers. Whereas in Matthew 7:24, both those that hear and do what Jesus teaches is like a wise man building on a rock, but those that just hear and do not do are like the foolish man that builds his house on the sand. An example of two very powerful similes. A simile, a direct comparison between two different things, employing the words like, as, or than. And lastly, synecdoche. This last figure of speech that we're going to consider, called synecdoche, is derived from the Greek meaning a shared or simultaneous understanding. It is when a part is used to represent the whole, or the whole is used to represent the part. In contemporary usage, we talk about wheels, people having a set of wheels, when what we mean is the whole vehicle. And we may have asked that someone give us a hand, when one, of course, what we want is much more than just a hand. In the Old Testament, it is not unusual for the whole 10 tribes of the northern kingdom to be addressed by the name of the leading tribe. That tribe was Ephraim. As we see repeatedly in Isaiah chapter 7, for example. In Genesis 3:19, Adam is told, "By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread," meaning all that he would eat, not just literally bread. In writing about flesh and blood, the writer to the Hebrews means, of course, physical people, as does Paul in Ephesians when he declares we do not fight against flesh and blood in Ephesians 6 verse 12. Synecdoche. A part of something is used to represent the whole, or the whole is used to represent the part.